today, what I would say is that every one of our leaders, no matter what they do, need to be business leaders with technology expertise and their own domain expertise. That's the new leadership formula for the future.
Hi, I'm Lidia Fonseca, Chief Digital and Technology Officer at Pfizer. In a time when every industry is being reshaped by technology and AI, bold leadership makes all the difference. Today, on The Power of Knowing, I'm joined by Julie Sweet, Chair and Chief Executive Officer of Accenture, and the first woman to lead the company in its history. Together, we'll explore how leaders can harness the power of technology to drive growth, inclusion, and lasting impact. Let's dive in to The Power of Knowing. Julie, it's wonderful to see you. Recognized by Time as one of the 100 most influential people, and by Fortune as one of the most powerful women in business. From becoming one of the youngest partners at Kravitz, Swaine & Moore, to steering Accenture and its clients across the globe through a new era of digital transformation and the age of AI, Julie has built her career at the intersection of innovation and leadership. So let's start with the introductions, Julie. Tell us a bit about your background and the journey that got you to where you are today.
I joined Accenture as the general counsel in 2010. I knew zero about technology. So when I joined Accenture, I became aware very quickly that in order to add value, I needed to understand technology. So I made friends with Bhaskar Ghosh, who's now our Chief Strategy Officer, and he began an education of me where I would meet every 2 weeks and I would learn technology, and I have not stopped since. And so for everyone who thinks they can't be literate in technology, I am here to tell you that as a lawyer, you can. And of course, it's incredibly important now because we're in the age of AI.
So Julie, when was your aha moment when you recognized the potential of AI?
Back in 2022, we talked about what is going to shape the next decade. And I remember sitting there with my team and truly understanding that AI was the technology that you could stand up in front of a CEO and say, every single part of the enterprise would be able to change and hit a whole new performance level with AI. And that was when we coined the term reinvention, and that all companies would need to actually reinvent themselves using tech, data, and AI. And that was definitely my aha moment. A few months later, ChatGPT burst onto the scene, and that's been a catalyst for companies and countries to really understand the power of AI.
ChatGPT, that put AI on the map for the masses. And I don't think we're going to be looking back.
Absolutely not.
Julie, we are in this moment of a lot of change, both from a geopolitical and technology perspective. How do you lead through that uncertainty?
It's a great question. And one of the things that I always start with is that uncertainty creates opportunity. And I think that mindset is really, really important. It's important for you as an individual leader, but it's also important for your people, because the moment that we start thinking that uncertainty is only about challenge, that's when people get so distracted and concerned. And instead, what I do at Accenture and what I talk to our clients about is that the companies who are able to take a moment where there's a lot of uncertainty and really focus, see the opportunity, and act with conviction are really the ones that will actually be able to lead at this time.
I love that. I love that how you turn what could be perhaps concerning and even scary into opportunity. I think that's terrific. You have a unique purview in that you work with the leaders of hundreds of companies across industries. What are key themes that you're seeing when it comes to AI? And can you share what a couple of companies are doing that represent different approaches?
Well, the theme that I think is most important is a theme about reinvention. to be successful with AI, you must embrace that you have to reinvent the way things actually work and even how you approach getting the value. So if you take a company like Telstra, the leading telecommunications provider in Australia, a brilliant CEO, Vicky, believes in her heart that the most important thing that they have to do is to be willing to embrace reinventing how they're working. We've been with Telstra as a partner for many, many years, and she formed a different kind of a relationship, really reinventing our relationship to form a joint venture around data and AI with the goal of embedding it in everything they do and truly changing the ways they work. And it's something that I ask myself every day, even as how I'm running Accenture, is, how am I running the company differently? How, as a result of AI, have I changed fundamentally the ways that we're working? And that's a test for every CEO, for every business unit leader. In fact, really for anyone leading right now, it is about what have I done differently because of AI, and how different is it? And it's that gap that really tells you, are you on the path to realizing the real value of AI?
I absolutely can relate to that. In fact, when I joined Pfizer, the remit that I got from Albert was that he wanted AI and technology to impact every aspect of our business. The way we saw it was we were not creating a digital strategy for the business, but rather we're creating a business strategy for a more digital and AI-driven world. And that, I think, is to me what differentiates making incremental change, or maybe the change management efforts of the past, with true reinvention, because you're using AI as a foundation. Similar to Accenture, Pfizer is also using AI across every aspect of our business, from research and development to manufacturing to engaging patients and physicians. For example, AI can now create initial versions of the many documents generated across research and development teams in preparation for submission to regulatory agencies. This will help us drive as much as 50% time savings, so we can focus on higher impact work to accelerate the development of our pipeline. We also use AI to identify the golden batch for each of our medicines and vaccines. Think of the golden batch as the manufacturing run with the highest quality and fastest cycle time. Generative AI detects deviations from the golden batch and recommends corrective actions to our operators in real time. These innovations enabled us to scale production from 220 million doses of vaccines before COVID to 4 billion in 2022. Imagine the impact of that on patients. And our AI-powered dynamic targeting generates recommendations for customer-facing colleagues about which customers to call on and how often. The AI model processes data sources with hundreds of factors to produce an optimal call plan to guide customer interactions, ultimately increasing our field force effectiveness. By pairing the art of the possible in science with the art of the possible in digital and AI, we can bring the next generation of breakthroughs to patients and their families who are eagerly awaiting them. At Accenture, you have successfully embedded AI in everything that you do as a company and the work that you do. And I love that you've made yourself customer zero. I think, by the way, that's a fantastic goal. Share with us how you did that and what are your major learnings so far?
Well, one of the big themes we have is that in the age of AI, you need to have leader-led learning. And in fact, when ChatGPT first exploded, we first focused on our most senior leaders and immersing them in the technology so that they could truly understand how to change. And then we think about, how to get started with advanced AI. It's the intersection of your business strategy, your organizational readiness, and then the technology's readiness. We started with leaders, but we quickly then scaled for our people to understand the power of technology. We've done it in a way that really followed what our business strategy was first, rather than having AI itself be the leader. And I think that's one of the challenges we sometimes see with our clients is they talk about an AI project, a Gen AI proof of concept, as opposed to starting with their business strategy and the business outcome, and then how can advanced AI help achieve that better, faster, with a different level of performance.
You're right. I think a lot of companies start with AI and applying it to productivity. But I also think it's important to apply it to creativity. What are some common mistakes you've seen when companies are implementing new AI tools? And how can organizations avoid making those mistakes?
One of the most important words that you just used was the word adopt. Adoption is the key. The technology is great, and if it's not adopted at scale, it can't create the value. And adoption is much more than understanding the technology itself. It starts with leaders who are committed to adopting the technology and making change. And for many of our clients, the journey is not to leap to Gen AI or agentic AI and now physical AI, but to start with the understanding that at the end of the day, it's always about changing the way that you work and being realistic about what are the processes today, how do we transform them to be the most efficient to use these technologies. And often you can self-fund many of those journeys because there's so much inefficiency that's built into many processes in our large enterprises.
We must be willing to reimagine our workflows from the ground up. We realize that we cannot just retrofit with incremental improvements. We must reinvent with AI as the foundation. And we call it having a digital first or AI first mindset. We also need to make AI outcomes measurable. Like any other investment, we should measure the ROI of AI through results like revenue, cost savings, customer satisfaction, R&D productivity, manufacturing cycle times, and time to market. The very same key metrics that we use to measure the health of our business.
Lidia, I want to just emphasize how important this is, particularly around the metrics. We have great discipline in making sure that whenever we're working either with a client or at Accenture, that we define what the outcomes are, and we start with the metrics that matter, as you said, to the health of your business. And in almost all cases, there are going to be efficiency and cost metrics, but there are other business outcome metrics. Like when we were first using agentic AI for marketing, we absolutely wanted to get more efficiencies, but if you think about our business strategy, it's all about bringing innovation and new thought leadership to market quickly. So our metrics included some efficiencies because we absolutely knew that we could do it faster, but the most important metric was, could we get to market faster? And we've already, in some cases, decreased that time from idea to creative by 90%. And we started, of course, though, by focusing on what is the outcome and what were the metrics. And those are the metrics we use already to run our business.
Julie, you don't promote leaders. You deliberately appoint them. And you speak about TQ, technology quotient, in addition to IQ and EQ. What are your expectations of your leaders, and how do you support them to be successful?
Well, I'm really passionate about leadership development. When I became the CEO in 2019, at my very first webcast, I introduced the idea of TQ. So this was in 2019, where we knew that the next decade would be a decade of transforming using tech, data, and AI. And we wanted to make sure that every part of our enterprise was ready for it. And so it was the first time we had introduced the idea of technology training on topics like AI for every one of our then 500,000 people. And that was where we coined the term TQ. We're defining for our non-tech leaders what they need to know in terms of technology, but we're also defining for our technology leaders the depth of understanding they need for business and how the company operates, because it is the power of bringing the technology understanding with the deep understanding of the business where you actually realize the value of AI. Today, what I would say is that every one of our leaders, no matter what they do, need to be business leaders with technology expertise and their own domain expertise. That's the new leadership formula for the future.
I always believe that you have to understand the business, how we make our products, how we serve customers, how we make money, how we make sure that the operation is as efficient as possible. Just like business leaders, should understand and have that TQ, I also believe that technologists must have also a high business acumen as well. And I can tell you in our town halls and in our leader briefings, we ask our people leaders to share with each other how they are experimenting with AI across our projects, but also in their day-to-day work. It needs to be part of your daily rituals. It becomes an extension of who you are. And I like to think of it as we are building our change muscle collectively. The beauty about AI for me is that it can really amplify you. And if you're already curious and you're already someone that leans, and approaches opportunities with curiosity, it can really amplify, your knowledge and also your ability. I love your quote. If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. Can you elaborate on that mindset and how it's helped you succeed?
And I think that's such an important mindset, both as an individual and as a leader, because we all have to push ourselves and our companies. And the moment that you sort of feel complacent, it probably means that you're not realizing your full potential or you're not helping your company realize your full potential. So it certainly was impactful for me in those times when, we all have doubts about what we're doing. And I'm like, okay, this means I'm dreaming big enough. It means I'm doing exactly what I should do. And I think about it every day as a leader, because as a leader of a company, I also need to be making sure that we're making the right strategic bets, that we're dreaming big, that we have stuff behind us. The other thing that I live with is I have a little stone in my office that says fearless and prepared. Right? You have to be both as a leader, but those bookends have really helped me, I think, be successful and have the right mindset as an individual and as a global CEO.
I share this sentiment to let colleagues know that it is good to feel uncomfortable, because it means that we are thinking big and we are being bold. I don't think we could have had the response that we had to the COVID pandemic if we didn't push ourselves way beyond our comfort zone. And we felt that as a company, but it was definitely that spirit of, if not us, then who? And that was very powerful for us. Is there anything that gives you pause about this era of rapid technological change? And what gives you hope?
The reality is that the world is going to continue to give us new challenges. And what makes me so hopeful, though, is that in the last 6 years, the breakthroughs in AI are a powerful tool that none of us had at the time we were dealing with challenges like COVID, for example. And that is a tool that's game-changing, that really is about setting a whole new performance frontier. And so, given that we're going to have these challenges, we've been given a major leg up. And that gives us a lot of hope. And so it is similar to moments like when the internet came along and when, mobility started, where it opened up new doors to address challenges. So that gives me hope. I think what gives me pause is that because it is so powerful, as it affects each of us, this aspect of what is the responsible use of AI and how do we make sure that we're teaching not only about the power, but that we're also teaching about the responsibility, and that we work together differently, because I do think there is a different role for companies, for educators, and for governments to work together to create the right education and global norms. And I think this is an area that we absolutely need to be focused on. And just as we've always had public, private, and education partnerships, we now need to reinvent them as well, because the ones that we've had are not going to be, I think, suitable for the kind of close collaboration that we need in order to ensure that AI is in fact the incredible force for good that we believe it can and should be.
Julie, we have covered a lot of ground today. So let's finish with a broad question. When all is said and done, where do you believe AI can improve our lives in the future?
Well, I think that AI is going to improve our lives in many ways. So first of all, I think it's going to improve our day-to-day life because, as you were talking about earlier, I think there's a lot of tedious things that are going to be taken away. At Accenture, our purpose is to deliver on the promise of technology and human ingenuity. And I think AI is actually going to be the enabler for more human ingenuity, more time to actually demonstrate the creativity that really changes the world. And we're very, very focused on that. And I just end by saying that, companies like Pfizer and your leadership are just reinforcing for me why this is such a great time to lead and to be alive. Pfizer's done incredible things over the years with science. You're now dedicated to using AI in this incredibly responsible way to have new breakthroughs. And I've loved working with you, Lidia, and seeing your leadership, up close, because it really is a model of how you lead in the age of Gen AI. So thank you, and I'm really excited that you asked me to be a part of this new program.
And thank you for the conversation. After our COVID response, I can tell you that our big aspiration now is we want to do with cancer what we were able to do with COVID. And I can tell you that AI and technology are very much a part of bringing those breakthroughs to patients and their families that are eagerly awaiting for them. So thank you so much for the conversation. And it has been a fantastic partnership between our two companies. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Power of Knowing with Julie Sweet. We learned that uncertainty isn't just a challenge, it's a launch pad. Julie reminded us that in times of disruption, leaders who embrace uncertainty as opportunity can unlock bold innovation and drive meaningful change. We also learned that AI success demands reinvention, not just retrofitting. Whether it's Telstra reimagining its partnership model or Accenture embedding AI into every layer of its business, the message is clear. Incremental tweaks won't deliver value at scale. We must completely reimagine workflows with an AI-first mindset. Reinvention is the new standard. We heard that leadership in the age of AI starts with learning. Successful AI adoption hinges on a massive, coordinated investment in developing people's skills. From immersing senior leaders in AI to scaling education across the company, Accenture and Pfizer show that understanding the tech is just the beginning. Adoption and mindset are what drives real value. We found out that it is important to measure what matters. The return on investment of AI should be measured through key business metrics. For Accenture, time to market is one of their most important goals. By embedding AI into their creative process, they brought innovation and thought leadership to market 90% faster. We also heard that there is a new leadership formula in the era of AI. Forget just IQ and EQ. Business leaders also need TQ, or technology quotient, and vice versa. Tech leaders need to have greater business acumen and creativity. And let's remember, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. And if you think you're in control, you're moving too slow. See you on the next episode of The Power of Knowing, where we'll keep exploring how technology, leadership, and humanity intersect to shape a better tomorrow.